Hey guys, I'm Zach. He's Nathan. This is a Sip It and Rip It podcast. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, rate us 5 stars, leave comments, follow us on, or subscribe to us on YouTube, leave likes and comments.
Just show us some love.
Just show us some love.
That's all we want.
Like at this point, any amount of attention would be good.
Like, give us some sort of validation,
just
please.
Yeah.
Just be like, hey, you're doing a. Send us a message on Instagram saying we're doing a great job. I met a listener this week who's not from around here. His name's Zach Rodriguez. Okay.
I believe that's his name. He hit me up on Facebook. I think I got a follow from him on there. Let me make sure I'm getting his name right. I do believe it's Zach Rodriguez.
That's pretty dope.
Zach Rodriguez. He had lots of nice things to say, and is now my friend on Facebook. So thanks, Zach.
Awesome.
I'm not too aware of how many people out of town are listening, but apparently we do have people not from Coleman listening. So
that's pretty badass.
Pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Now that we have 11 people listening now. Thanks so much, Zach. I appreciate you. It is a big deal. It's a bigger deal to us than you realize. So,
yeah. So anybody that hits us up like on Instagram or whatever and is just like, hey, I listened.
Dude's strong too. He looks like he's compared to me, a relatively lightweight lifter.
Yeah.
He's probably I guess he's probably 198, 220, might be a 242, but he's in really good shape.
Yeah.
I think he posted 525 for 5 from a deficit the other day and some 300 pound
presses.
Yeah, close grip, I think. Yeah. So
nice. That's pretty good.
Pretty stout. Yeah, absolutely. He's pretty strong. I don't think I've seen him squat yet. So you'll have to post us a squat video, Zach, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So we can know actually how strong you are. Because me and
have
you,
poverty squat.
We are not strong. We do not squat well.
literally press more than I squat currently.
I've been struggling with that lately.
As a powerlifter, that's a hard place to be. Man.
It's demoralizing.
It is demoralizing.
It's like,
but I mean, we are above average pressers, to be fair.
Yeah.
We just happen to also be below average squatters.
We got to make up for it somehow to maintain that averageness, right? Oh, man. I grabbed my phone for something.
Thank God for the deadlift.
Right? Thank God we can pull shit off the floor.
Thank fucking God.
But yeah, the Ghost Clash. Well, we didn't. We already talked about drinks.
Yeah, we talked about drinks.
Do you want to do our opening before I go into Ghost Clash?
Yeah, we just did the opening.
No, I mean like PR songs. PR songs. Yeah. We are not together today. I have slept 3 hours with a nap somewhere in between.
I hit the cocktails pretty hard right off the bat. So
okay,
going PR songs and then gym stuff this week, right?
That sounds good to me. So I'll go ahead and start because I got mine pulled up.
Fucking go.
It's a brand new single by Dath. You know who Dath is? It's called Ascension. If you've ever listened to Dath before, especially when they got their new lead singer after the other guy left because he was like some crazy hippie dude and like wanted to do humanitarian work and like he was just like he had all these goals that he wanted to accomplish and one of them just happened to be a death metal singer and also be a humanitarian, just like a bunch of random stuff. Anyway, their new singer, their style changed a little bit and they got a little more, and the best way to describe it is somewhere between musically, like somewhere in between black metal and circus music.
Cool.
It's really cool. It's really interesting, but it's like, if you hear it, you'll know what I'm saying. Anything from their I think it's their third album. It's self-titled. Self-titled. I think they've had 3 albums since then. All of those have that same kind of evil circus sound and music, but it's really good and it's pretty heavy and it's mostly death metal vocals, not black metal vocals. That's the big difference there. Yeah, like
we're talking about we're getting deep into the nerddom of metal right now.
So it's death metal vocals on top of black metal circus music. So take it for what you will.
All right, it could be good.
I like it.
This is born out of my love for Kublai Khan, but there's a band called Boundaries that released a full length called Death is Little More this year. And there's a song on it called Blood Soaked Salvation, and it features Matt Honeycutt from Kublai Khan on it.
Okay.
And God damn, that whole record, it's a little bit metalcore leaning. It's a little less like beat-downy deathcore like Kublai Khan is. There's definitely a little bit more metalcore. You would like it a lot, I think. The whole record's really a little bit more up your alley than it is mine. Really fucking good though. Blood Soaked Salvation is the name of the song. It's just fucking god awful heavy, and I 100% worth a listen. It's got me pretty fired up this week. So
Sweet.
that's a good one.
I am going to put one that you'll probably make fun of me for because of the band. And it's not a heavy song.
That's okay.
But if I know some people out there, not you, have been following WWE the past couple years.
Here comes the motionless and what?
So Cody Rhodes finally finished his story. He won the WWE title for his dad. Rest in peace, Dusty Rhodes. And it was this huge like storyline that spanned 2 years. It was great. It was a big moment. And I can't get his song stuck out of my head, and it's called Kingdom by Downstate.
Cool. That's not what I thought it was.
Okay.
I thought you were going to do the Rhea Ripley Motionless and What song.
I like that song too. I like that song too. Now, I'll be fair, I don't like a ton of Motionless in White, and they were at WrestleMania playing her song live, and they sounded awful. It was so bad. I cringed when I heard it.
They're like...
I didn't know what they looked like.
They're like a bad Breaking Benjamin in makeup. It's like, and I'm like real hit or miss on Breaking Benjamin anyway, because that's that type of rock for me. It's like, there's honestly songs that are really good, but that's
They
definitely
do have
that, like,
some.
that's that Bowflex metal genre. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
it's true.
when somebody tells you they worked out and then you find out they really just own a Bowflex.
Yeah.
That's, Disturbed, Breaking Benjamin, Five Finger Death Punch, stuff like that. But that's Motionless and White too. It
That's
may be
fair.
even a little bit fucking worse, to be honest with you.
I mean, I feel like they have a couple of songs that I can really enjoy, and that is one of them. But like, I've not listened to a ton of them, so I can't really say. But when I saw them performing that song live, it was god awful. So, and I also feel like it was just the lead singer over the track, and they weren't actually playing live.
That's probably likely.
And I think the mic was just like fucked up or something, because he was like in and out. He sounded terrible. It was just bad all around. But I do like that song. I do listen to it in the gym. But no, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes' song, not Rhea Ripley's song.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to a lot of new music lately, so that's always a fun thing. Never bad, right? That being said, it makes it really, really hard for me to determine what I'm going to put on here. So, fuck, I don't know. There's been a lot of good shit. There's a band called Defocus, also a little bit more metalcore. You'd probably like them more than I would. But they have a song called Crooked Mind. I've been spinning that one a lot too. It's pretty fucking good.
There you go.
Not bad at all. Probably much, much more excited about my first entry though.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. And then the new Ingested record's good, but it's pretty much good beginning to end. I have no one song to put on that.
Just the whole album.
Whole album.
Just listen to Ingested through and through. They are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Ingested and Aborted. I've been really getting into lately.
Yeah, I've listened to Aborted for a long time, and I love that band. At the same time, as much as I love the new tracks, they weren't really a surprise.
The new Aborted stuff?
It's exactly what I would expect out of Aborted, which is not at all a disappointment. It's just exactly what I'd expect.
It's just not new. It's just like, yep, this is Aborted.
Is definitely Aborted. But yeah, I mean, those two songs for me. Are we doing the third? You got a third?
Nah, I don't have a third one.
Okay, good, because I was like feeling some pressure on the third one. But
nah.
It's generally hard for me to... I get a little bit hyper focused and obsessed over new songs I like a whole lot. So.
Yeah, you listen to them over and over and over and over and over.
Not back. I can't do it back to back in a workout, no, but I will in the car. Like that fucking Knocked Loose song, I'm still spinning it every day. Every day I'm listening to that fucking Knocked Loose song. Did you listen to it?
Yeah, I did.
Fucking nasty.
I just hate his vocals so much. The music is so good, but I hate his vocals.
He's grown on me.
I imagine it's one of those...
He's extremely shrill, though.
Yeah. It's one of those... It's probably like an acquired taste. You just have to...
Our lovely resident vegan, who I love dearly, and he's a very, very hard worker, but he loves hardcore, messaged me. It's put up something about not the new Knocked Loose being bullshit because it's not hardcore anymore, and I was like, that's probably why it's good, dog. It's more metal than hardcore now. So I got to rib on him a little bit about that, and then I did tell Lance also that the difference between metal kids and hardcore kids, and I can't believe both of us are. He's 40 and I'm 35. We're talking about being kids still. The difference between the two is metalheads know they're fucking cheesy and we embrace it. Hardcore kids have to know that they're actually cheesy, but they try to present it as being tough, and it just makes them that much cheesier for some reason.
Yeah.
I love both genres, but
Right.
that being said, like we're just embracing what we are.
Right. Well,
They're kind of the dumb jock of the
metal community.
of the underground music community in a way. Like, yeah, it's loud, it's belligerent, it's awesome. Y'all are kind of walking parodies of yourself. Sorry, y'all. I really do love hardcore now, so I can't really say much. But
would you compare
I used to give poor Joey Miller unrelenting shit when we were kids about being a hardcore kid.
Yeah.
Like I used to dump on hardcore so hard.
I believe.
And now in my old age, I actually find it really, really cathartic in the gym because it's like the wonderful thing about hardcore is it's like straight to the fucking point.
Yep.
Like it's not fucking decorated. It's all mean as fuck sounding, and it's just a fucking vibe. And I'm about the vibe. I really am.
Right.
But still, metal is king.
Yeah. metal will always be the best genre in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't see that changing ever.
Speaking of, I think I have my. Do I have my
Keep hardcore
negative
yep.
shirt on? Yep, still. Yep. I'm not about, and I bet the real hardcore kids are like this too. I am not about the happy hardcore shit. Like,
there's happy hardcore.
well, it really turned into something else. It's really basically metalcore, but fucking A Day to Remember and shit like that. All that shit that Austin listens to, like.
You'd probably put Beartooth in that then.
They're a little bit more commercial than they are hardcore, though. I feel like, but
well,
I definitely don't want. I don't want. It doesn't matter what they sound like within the genre of hardcore. If it's lighter and poppier, if it's like real hardcore, like I expect it to be, I don't want positive shit in my negative music. I don't. I need somebody to be getting shot in the fucking face. Like that's all there is to it.
Fair.
Like I guess that's the metalhead in me is I expect X amount of gore in my
right.
In my heavy music.
I mean,
hardcore metal, it doesn't matter.
You grow up listening to Cannibal Corpse and like everything's supposed to sound like that. That's the genre. Like
we're supposed to be talking about
splitting
death and
people
destruction.
open,
Yeah.
and
If we're not talking about death and destruction, we should be talking about, I don't know,
Satan
or something mythical or mystical, or that's the metalhead in me for sure.
Yeah, that's
hardcore kids are definitely not talking about that.
Hardcore kids are like blood and teeth, and
they're so mad that they come from a middle-aged white community and they had their life was so tough and they feel so unprivileged and
yep. I hate my town.
My mom and dad did everything for me. Damn them for giving me an awesome childhood. Fuck my suburb. I'm so sorry. That was a pretty hard rip.
It was but goddamn, it's true.
It is. But I mean, it's fucking awesome music. I can't lie. And I'll tell you this. Very few music fans are as dedicated or have the heart for music that those people have, that fan base has.
What do you mean, those people?
I mean, hardcore kids. I mean exactly what I said.
Oh man! So
they like always have like some type of cause, right? Like Cannibal Corpse, just like this next song's fucked with a knife. Hope you enjoy it. Like we have no cause.
Yeah, no,
other than playing fast and heavy shit's fun.
And talking about internal organs outside of the body is cool.
I mean, not even all the lyrics that I listen to are like that dark, but like,
no, I mean,
sometimes it's about intent as much as it is about
right.
anything, right? So,
I mean, say intent, Shadow of Intent, like they're very much like not gory at all, but they talk about dark themes. Mostly like, I mean, hell, their first album is mostly about the first 3 Halo games, so. Like nerdy shit, but it's dark.
I'm still at a point. I'm okay with this, like in rap genres, and I'm okay with this, and I'm actually okay with this, like in some better country music. But other than those two things, I really don't want to hear people talk about how tough life is. Like you ain't really got it that bad.
Right.
Like those two groups of people can talk about that all they want.
Right.
You know,
That's
but
fair.
like the rest of us didn't have it that bad. Like, calm down.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is.
Right.
Like, how many causes do you have? Like,
So, gym this week.
good
You have-
gym week. I started back on a power split. Pretty successful squats, lightweight, high volume. Presses were good, lightweight, high volume, except for today was my uncapped, do what you want to do on the Swiss bar, football bar, whatever you want to call it, multi-grip. There's like a million names for it. I got very humbled by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a fun week. Nothing of note, no PRs. Nothing to write home about, just
Yep.
good quality work this week. So doing everything on the Tabata timer, which we will get to.
Yep.
But well, all my not non-compound stuff
Right,
on all my
stuff.
accessory works on a Tabata timer, with the exception of a couple things today. I did a couple things, intentionally programmed things a little bit. 2 movements in particular. I had pull-ups and plate-loaded chest press that I did AMRAPs of in like very, very limited sets. I did
Right.
2 sets of pull-ups and 3 sets of
Yeah.
plate-loaded press.
That
So,
makes sense.
everything else was on Tabata timer, but those are the only 2 things that the week that's not. So, I did the chest press today on a Tabata timer because that's what my training partner wanted to do, but it's programmed as basically 3 AMRAPs.
Right.
Could have done the mile rep match, but
I like the mile rep match. It's pretty fun. I like just about anything
Fun's
on
a
the chest
word.
press.
now the difference, I'll tell you this, is if I had done mile rep matches, I would have done 3 or 4 plates a hand, and I did 1 plate
Yeah.
and got pretty torched. I suffered the same issue on this as I have on a couple other machines though, using the Tabata timer, and that's that on a more compound lift like that, if it's not enough to get if it's super lightweight and it's not enough to get like a response out of the big muscle group, you tend to wear out your
Small muscle
delts
group.
and triceps. So my chest really didn't take a beating from that.
Yeah.
So I really needed my chest to take the beating, and it really just beat up my tris and front delts.
Right.
So,
And the mile rep match probably would have been a little
because it would
better.
have been, like I said, it would have been 3 or 4 plates.
Yeah.
Depending on how I felt. And,
Yep.
You know, it would have been a little bit more to the point. The pull-ups were extremely effective. I mean,
Mhm.
I can't believe I got 280 some odd pounds right now, and I got, 2 sets of 5 strict, which is not great, but it's better than I expected
Yeah.
at this body weight. So
Pull ups or chin ups?
pull-ups.
Okay.
Yeah. Regular wide grip. Yep. So it was good.
Me went in Monday for deadlifts and they didn't go the way I wanted to, which was really weird because like my plan was pretty conservative, I felt like. And then I went in, pulled my last warm up, felt really good, went to pull my working set and it just didn't move. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not deadlifting today. So I just hung it up, did my accessory work. I got a good back pump. Went on Tuesday to do bench press, did close grip. Didn't go great. It didn't go poorly, but like for my plan being as conservative as it was, I didn't get what I expected. I hit like the bare minimum. So I was like, oh, that kind of fucking blows.
Right.
And then Thursday squats, I did stop a set early for time, but I felt like I could keep going and it was still a conservative plan. My knees were starting to feel better as I worked through it. I had some really painful warm-ups that I feel like made a difference because like I feel like there was extra blood flow, extra stretch, like everything around my knee flexors were feeling better. So I do think that's helping, and I do think more volume in the squat is also helping because I'm squatting on my bench press day and on my leg day. So getting a little extra movement, extra knee flexion, I think is benefiting them. Still think it's arthritis though, so we'll see how long this lasts and if I need to go to the doctor and stuff like that. So we're gonna find that out as time goes on.
Sure.
Pump day was great. Got all my stuff done.
Did you get a pump?
I got a pump.
There you go. That's what
I
I'm
got a pump. It was back and back, shoulders, bicep, tricep, and got a pump on everything. So.
That's my pump day too.
Yeah.
Well, I got log press, so
Right.
but pretty much pump day outside.
Mine's machine shoulder
I
press.
really like three times a week on arms. I can't lie to you. I mean, it's been the thing that brought my press up. So
it just works because it's such a small muscle group and it recovers so fast. You can just train it all the time.
The only shit thing about it is going to affect my press Monday because my last day like that is today. That being said, I would rather do that than have to squat on Monday.
Right. That's fair.
So it is what it is. But I mean, at the weight I'm pressing right now, I mean, I think I have like 275 for a top set and then drop sets at 235 or something like that. So
pretty easy work.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
solid weeks though.
Yeah.
Sounds like, yep.
No complaints. Well, a few complaints, but it is what it is. We're working through diet fatigue, I think. So
sure.
Getting back up to maintenance calories slowly, and we'll hopefully see a good recomp, especially with the fruit and vegetables adding in for my carbs. So we'll
hope you're ready to shit a lot.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I've literally not shit but like once a day since I've been eating less, so it's okay. I'm used to shitting like 2 or 3 times a day. So if I go back to that, it'll just be like
shit. Dude, I shit 4 times before 11 o'clock.
If I'm eating a lot, I shit a lot, but eating less, I'm
sure this is what y'all wanted to hear about today.
Oh yeah, poop talk.
So a couple of things on the list today. Nathan's going to cover the Ghost Clash. He's a better fan than I am. He kept up with it. I did not. I'll probably have some things to say about it like I always do. And then we're going to get into how we're currently approaching, probably not a permanent approach, but how we're currently approaching our accessory movements. Yep. So,
Ghost Clash 3, the big excitement was obviously John Hack was there. So he was...
Miss weight.
He did miss weight. Still kicked everybody's ass. Nobody expected any different. Still came in first place.
What was his dots at 220?
So he was 208.
Well, I know, but he was in the 220s.
He was in the 220s. It was in the 600s. I remember that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the 600s.
Had a stupid day though.
Oh yeah,
fucking ridiculous.
I can actually pull it up real quick, so I don't
beyond historic. I mean,
and broke either all-time world records or national records. I can't remember. Is this the most recent one? Nope, that's old. Okay, here's his most recent. So he at 206, excuse me. So he had an 804 squat, 556 bench, and 939 deadlift. He did miss his third bench press, which was closer to 600. I think it was 584. If I'm not mistaken. He didn't post what it was that he missed. But like I said, won the day. 2,300 pound total at 206. It's fucking nuts. Like, the big thing, which I found really interesting with John's day, and I don't want to like stir anything up. Nobody's listening, so no, it's not gonna stir anything up. But I saw that Juwan was asked about what he thought about the American Pro, and or may have been specifically about John, and he was like, his squats were high, and he ramped his last deadlift, but he's still the best. And I was like, damn. And then I watched back, and I was like, his squat was a little high. And I watched, and I was like, his deadlift, you could call that ramping, but it was close. Like I'd have to really see it from the side.
Was it one of those situations where he locked his hips before his knees? Like making it kind of like a weird call.
Let's just watch it.
We're watching John Hack's deadlift currently.
It's
I may be Team Jawan on that one.
It's pretty.
I thought I watched that. I know I did, but I don't guess I was specifically looking for that.
I would have to see it from the side to be 100%, but it's definitely something where people could question it. And
listen, I mean, the sport's the sport. If you get the call, you get the call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that is the truth. That is another thing I wanted to comment about the Ghost Clash. There are other things too, but specifically, calls were very inconsistent. That bothered me a lot because this is supposed to be a pro level.
Sure. And
there were a lot of squats where I was like, that was so fucking high, and they got the pass. And then there were calls where like they didn't get a pass. And I was like, what the hell? What am I not seeing? Because they were squatting lower than half the guys And I was just like, and they're not getting the call.
Did the ability to do instant replay or for it to go to a committee not start yet? Has that not started yet?
If they didn't have a committee on the site, then they can't. Now I don't know if that is like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I was curious about it. Didn't seem like anybody ever called one. So
Why have the rule if it's not going to be at these major events though?
Right.
Like it's curious.
Unless it's just in there for future.
Listen, this is why we need instant replay in powerlifting.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And would it have sucked to have taken his deadlift away? Yeah, but if he watches it back in the moment, maybe he's like,
fuck yeah.
I mean, he's been in a sport long enough, he knows what, what I mean? Like, most of these people, I think most competitors are going to be pretty fair about a call.
Yeah.
Like,
especially if they can see it back and
they know when they get away with stuff, and I think that they're in general pretty honest.
Right. It would be ideal for
with that amount of money, we need to. Are we just laying down and saying, "Oh, he's going to win anyway"? Let's make the fucking call, or like,
yeah,
it is. It brings up for me. It brings up questions like that. Like,
yeah,
like, well, if he doesn't hit it. I mean, what's to say somebody else doesn't beat him? Probably not at Ghost Clash this time.
Right.
Jawan was kind of, it would have taken some missed lifts, but he was kind of within striking distance of John at the American Pro.
Yep.
I mean, so like, are we just going to like belly up and say, he's the best, what can we do? All shucks, we'll get it right next time. Or like, it's time, I don't know, how much what was the first prize? It
was like $5,000 or something like that.
So it's not the huge pot that the American Pro and some of these other things are, but like...
No, but it was still money. It was still a money meet.
Kern back in the day was, a $40,000... Brandon Allen talks all the time about how he dropped a $30,000 or $40,000 deadlift at Kern.
Yeah, so it was 4,000. 4,000, 2,500, 1,250, 600, 300.
But, it's not that they get reprimanded, but if you look at professional sports, specifically the NFL, like all the calls they make in a ball game get reviewed that week at work, and those referees are made to actively try to get better and make more fair calls.
Right.
Which if you watch the NFL, it's bullshit when it comes to offense versus defense. Like offense gets all the calls.
Right.
Defense gets none of them. So it's not a perfect thing either. But those people are actively trying to get to a point where calls are more consistent and fair. Like if you're going to call roughing the passer on this one, then it's got to be called on this one. Right. They're at least acknowledging we need some type of
standard
and continuity.
Yeah.
We very rarely get it, but that's human error and refereeing. It is what it is. But we also have the fact that like a $4,000 pot's a lot of money to me and you. That's still not enough money on a weekend to make powerlifting a profession.
Right.
Like most of these people, the powerlifting's a profession because they're coaching, or like in John and Andy Wong's case, they have their own AI app. Like they're making money from coaching, from their AI, from their social media content. That's why they're full-time powerlifters. They're not full-time powerlifters because of their meat money.
Right.
Because there's too many pros out. I mean, there's too many pros out there doing it. Like not everybody's going to win that 4,000 pot on the weekend. Right. So like,
and
Brandon will tell you, I think, when I was coached by Brandon, he would tell you, like he probably spent a lot more money on powerlifting than he made, not including what he was doing personal training wise and stuff like that. But like, it cost him money to be a tremendous amount of money to be some of these places.
Right.
Like, he's talked about in interviews being open and honest about how much big dogs in Australia cost him when he went and won it. Like there's a lot of like, it's a problem. So we don't have full-time referees is what I'm getting at.
Right.
That are getting paid. It's their full-time job to go back and review these calls to try to make them more consistent next time. Which means we're susceptible on a powerlifting weekend, whether it's your local meet or a national meet or a worldwide meet like Ghost Clash or American Pro. It makes you susceptible to somebody's fucking mood that day.
Yep.
Which is crappy in one way, but these are also not full-time on-staff WRPF employees where they have a job to report to on Monday morning to talk about the calls that they made and why they were right or wrong or how they could have done better. Like you have that in other professional sports. So right now, powerlifting does not make enough money to solve the calls issue. Powerlifting does make enough money to have fucking cameras set up for instant replay.
Right.
And like, it should at least be set up to a point where if there is a disagreement about a call, the side judges and the head judge in that moment can look at it and reverse their own calls. Mm-hmm. They should be able to say, I was right or I was wrong.
Right.
And honestly, I think that's not too much to ask for at this point.
It's not. And you know, what's really interesting is that they had replays on the live stream.
A single, yeah, exactly. A single camera is enough in most of these circumstances to get it. You do need, you know, a side profile on the squat. Mm-hmm. 2 cameras would be ideal on squat and bench press because you obviously have,
right.
You can hit depth on one side, not on the other, and you see it, you know, called that way sometimes. Like, especially if somebody has some mobility issues. Mm-hmm. Steve Sides gets called that way. He can squat. He appears to be deeper on one side than the other. Right. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but you should be able to go back and
look at lists and just be able to.
You need at least 2 from the side judge perspective, if not 3. I mean, listen, the head judge, unless you can actively see thigh above their knee, mm-hmm. From the head judge's position, it's really hard to call squat depth.
Yeah. They're basically just looking for up and down and lockouts. Yeah.
So, I don't know. But I think, honestly, instant replay is the bare minimum of what we need.
Right.
And I think a lot of these pros would take a smaller field, a 2 or 3 flight day versus a 4 flight day to accommodate the time to have that. They might even, because so much money is on the line sometimes, they might even be willing to pay a little bit more in entry fees to ensure that it's only a 2 or 3 flight day versus a 4 flight day.
Yeah.
So let's be honest with you. I mean, let's be honest. When John Hack shows up, 3/4 of the field knows they're not winning. Right. He can go 3 for 9, get one lift and beat most people, mm-hmm. even other professionals. Yep. So you're really only talking about something that affects 1/4 of the population lifting that day anyway. Right. Truly, you have 1/4 of the people there that are going to be actually competitive, and then everybody else is either competing against themselves or competing against their weight class, and they're probably not in the money. Right. Which is enough for a lot of us. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not. I could go out as a single 308 or 2 or 3 people in my weight class, win my weight class, and I'm still not going to be in the money. Right. I know that. I accept that. Not a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to win on dots. I'm not going to win on total, but I'm not going to win on dots. You know what I mean? I don't have there's got to be some degree of acceptance about that. Like, you're really only talking about, even at the American Pro, you knew it wasn't going to be a super heavyweight guy. Mm-hmm. You knew if it was one of the heavier lifters, it would probably have to be Dan Grigsby. And he wasn't there. So, like, you're basically talking about a meet that, as long as they're not hurt, we knew in the American Pro it was going to be Hack or Jawan. Mm-hmm. And Jawan wasn't there either. In the American Pro? Mm-mm. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking about I was talking about the American Pro. Okay, but, you knew it was going to be with those 2 guys. Like, those guys didn't show up. Right. For the Ghost class. John did. Like, you kind of already knew. It was only going to be John and another guy or 2 talking about this money, and it would probably have to be an egregiously bad day for John to lose that money. So you're not talking about something that's going to affect everybody. Right. Take the smaller field, charge them a little bit more, make sure their chance at the money is fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember when Andy Wong and Brandon had their podcast together. And I don't remember the name of that podcast, but I remember they talked about the Ray Williams rule. Mm-hmm. Ray Williams was blowing up squats so bad and killing everybody so much that, a lot of powerlifters felt that, like, just because he unracked it and squatted it, he would just get calls for doing it. Right. Like, it wasn't deep enough or that or the other. I can tell you, in my opinion, Ray always looks like he bounces off the floor. Right. But, like, there were people upset about that. Like, is he getting a call because this is a world record squat? Right. And everybody's just impressed with him. He's unracking it. Like, sometimes we don't know. Yeah. And that's the reason we need replay. Yeah. Again, I personally, Ray Williams is local-ish. I personally think Ray's always squatted deep enough, but there was still back and forth about that at one time. So instant replay is not too much to ask. No. Especially if you're not going to be able to pay your judges like full-time employees, which would be a ridiculous ask in the WRPF. Right. That'd be a ridiculous ask. Yeah. But you're talking about the difference in 2 cameras and maybe a couple more personnel people that day. Right.
Just people to man the cameras and just be able to present the cameras.
We're working on, powerlifting's done a good job. They're working on bigger and bigger productions for these events all the time. Like the American Pro specifically is a really good looking event. It's fun for spectators and stuff. Like all the money they're spending on that is very, very, it's a drop in the tank compared to all the other money they're spending on this. To have another camera or two set up.
Right.
And one or two people to look at it and say, or three even, to say, this needs to be looked at again. Let's pause. Let's do the replay. Let's have our current side judges and head judge determine if they were wrong or not. If they're going to stick to their guns, we'll move on. If they feel like, oh, fuck, this was absolutely deep enough. Right. My bad. Give them a call. Move on. I mean. Yeah.
And you're talking about really potentially only stopping for what? 5 seconds, 10 seconds?
In football, it ends up being 30, 45. Sometimes you have to take a commercial break. So
right, but the difference
potentially run as long as 5 minutes. But again,
the difference in powerlifting is that the lift typically isn't going to be more than 10 seconds. To replay that lift, all it's going to take is the time it takes to go back, rewind, whatever we have to do.
You may be talking about 2 minutes after some discussion.
If you're talking about discussion, yeah. But it could be as simple as, hey, watch it again. Let me pause it here. Pause it where you need to, just even if it's 2 or 3 minutes, right? Like that's not that much to ask for. I don't feel like in the whole day.
Not when you're talking about that much money on the line and with a bunch of people that already spend more money than they make in the sport, and they're only doing the sport because they love it. Like that $4,000 pot was important to somebody. I'm sure it was important to John.
Right.
That being said, everybody that's capable of competing for that money deserves a fair shake. Yeah. The people that don't do too. I mean, again, I mean, it could be used to, determine, if it determines your weight class, even if you're not in the money, if it determines a record, even if you're not in the money, I mean, those things are important to get right. Yeah. So I just don't think it would slow us down that much. Especially if you're talking about, capping it in a way that you're going to dock a flight, basically, or just have shorter flights.
Right. Like, just make it harder to qualify for the Ghost and American Pro and stuff like that. They got an amateur day for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not good enough, go to the amateur day. Right.
That's fair. I think there were still. I mean, I know you watched it. There were still some monstrous lists by people that wasn't in the money. Yeah. I mean.
There was some cool stuff going on.
There was national records and world records broken by people that was never going to touch John's money.
Yep.
But, I think we owe it to the athletes. We owe it to the judges to get it right, honestly, too, because, it can honestly be very validating for these side judges, too. And they go back and be like, everybody's bitching about me calling this guy on depth. Let's just watch the motherfucker back and I will show you he was high. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true, too.
Like, it's a tool for everybody. It's a win across the board. Like, it is what it is. Yeah. We are much better as powerlifters. We're much better, have much better temperament than other sports fans and other sports competitors. Like, I don't feel like, this is going to lead to, a referee getting beat up after the meet like it does in a football game or, a baseball game or something like that.
Death threats.
I think it's going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like, but we owe it to the lifters and to the judges to get it right because, like I said, it could be validating to the judges. Yeah. So
I'm going to take that slightly into a segue here. You said national and world records were being broken. So that's the other thing I wanted to touch on. There were 2 world records broken in women's deadlift. Both of them belong to Brianni T. So Denise Herber broke the 165 or 181. It's 165 with 291.5 kilos, I believe.
600 pounds.
Yeah, it was heavy deadlift. She did it beltless.
Yeah, conventional. Winter stance and
monster. It was really cool to see. Samantha Rice broke I think she's a 181. So she broke that and the heaviest deadlift of all time by a woman at 293 kilos. And she moved it well. She actually went up to I think 303 kilos, and she couldn't break it off the ground. But it was an insane jump, and I was like, "What the fuck? Yeah. Like, is she actually going to pull this?" And I was like, "Okay." It was just like a Hail Mary.
She already had the record, and she was just like, "Fuck it, let's go for broke."
It may have been jockeying for positioning, trying to surpass somebody. Brianni hit her opener and then missed 293 twice, which was unfortunate because that's like her lift. Like she's deadlift is her lift, but she just couldn't get it together that day. And you could see she was visibly frustrated. But talking about the temperament again, you could see how mad she was and frustrated she was. She still went and shook every judge's hand, walked off the stage. I was like, that says something, that says something about her character. She didn't get mad.
Did Hunter Henderson not break a squat record?
She did. It was a lot. It was like 683 or something like that.
Some pro guys don't hit that.
It was fucking monstrous.
I mean, albeit the pro guys that aren't hitting that, have 500-pound bench presses and 800-pound deadlifts. But,
right. But still, that's like her squat.
I mean, the first Dan Grigsby meet I followed, he didn't squat that.
Right. Yeah. He squatted like
he can very easily now. But
maybe high fives, low sixes. I can't remember, but it was a big squat, and I was like, holy shit, that's nuts. But that's her lift, man. She's one of the best squatters in the world as far as women go.
Badass.
I guess as far as people go in
the
general.
men's, I feel like everybody was pretty. Wasn't a lot of other than Hack. There wasn't a lot of noise about the men's stuff.
There were a couple of people who had some pretty. There was one guy, I forget his name. He reminded me a lot of Julius Maddox, actually, because he had a monster squat and bench press. It was like 1,000 something on his squat. And then his bench press was high fives. Didn't deadlift a lot. I feel like it was in the 700 range, but
squat specialist stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he was built to squat.
Yeah. Still only totaled like 22 or 23.
Right.
It
was still nuts.
Fucking huge.
But yeah, he was really fun to watch. What's his name? Charchungus. I can't remember his real name. That's his Instagram handle. He's one of Joe's guys. He's a 275, I think.
Yeah.
He was there. I can't remember what all he did. He was also pretty fun to watch. But yeah, for here lately, like, I feel like the women's powerlifting is kind of just like taken over. Like it's more fun to watch from a spectator.
It's more competitive, front to back, and I think arguably they may be pushing their boundaries more than
the men are
at their body weights.
Yeah,
I mean, to see that kind of show with the men, it would have to be like super heavyweight showdown, like Dan Bell type guys,
right?
I mean, so.
It is still cool. I mean, honestly, I love watching John Hack lift. I mean, like it's always so cool to see him go out there and just like,
he's the GOAT for a reason.
Fucking, what was it?
Did we see a chink in the armor with him missing weight?
He still won.
He still won, but
they were talking about, I wonder if he's going to compete in 220 full next time. And I'm like, God, what would he do at 220? Could he hit like a 24?
Did we determine he had to, like 150 pounds on his total, would he still wouldn't dots what he does at 198, right? Wasn't it something ridiculous like that we did the math on?
Yeah, it may have been. It was
150 pounds on your total is no small feat for a pro.
Right. Even putting
that fight and claw all year for
couple
5
pounds.
to 20 pounds,
yeah.
You know what I mean, on a lift. And then they also have to maintain their current strength, which is at their current body weight. Those things are hard to fucking do. So like,
I don't think we're seeing any chink in the armor, to be honest with you, because if he can still win at a very low 220, what does it matter?
It obviously paid, the body weight obviously paid on his bench and deadlift.
Yeah. So his squat, it was really funny. Joe Sullivan shared it, and he was like, everyone go bully John and tell him not to mess with my squat. Because he's got the 220 all-time world record. I think it's 860?
850 something, isn't it?
It's something like that. It's in the
it may be 850 even, because American Pro, when we talked to him, wasn't he like kind of alluded to 400 being the goal, which is 881? That
would make sense. Yeah. But that was fun. But yeah, Ghost Clash was really fun to watch. I was even the amateur day was cool. My biggest takeaway,
toxic trait of ours, is we could have done this.
Man,
on the amateur day.
Day, I was like, bro, we could have gone, like, because I was talking to Austin. I was like, hey, there's an amateur day. He's like, we should go next year. I was like, fuck, I don't know if we'd be competitive, and then I watched, I was like, fuck, we'd be competitive. Like, holy shit.
Austin would have been, you would have too, but Austin would have been very competitive.
Yeah. It was.
He was probably he was on par squat and deadlift wise. He was probably a touch behind deadlift wise. I mean, a bench press wise, but
at his body weight.
At 275. Because there was 242s. Me and you sit here and watch them that was pressing what he presses.
Yeah.
At 220 and at 242.
Yeah.
But he would have been competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And then like that was the other thing. Is there's so many 242s all of a sudden. Like they're popping up like fucking rabbits.
Yeah, but I mean, a point we've made a lot though, those were bigger 242s in the sense of higher body fat percentage and stuff like that than
even pros.
That's not where we really want to be as a 242. We want you to be, there's a reason you walk around at 260 now.
Right.
You know what I mean? We want your body composition to be better than everybody else at 242.
Right.
I don't feel like on that amateur day that we watched that we saw a lot of great composition.
No. I mean, there were a few people that looked like.
I know everybody's rolling their eyes. Well, this is powerlifting, not body. Better body composition fucking wins in powerlifting.
It does.
I'm sorry. Like,
you're lighter and you're stronger.
I mean,
like,
well,
you
mass moves mass, but muscle mass moves more than fat mass does.
Yep.
So if you're maxing out, if you're maxing out your weight class at 12 to 15% body fat, you're going to be stronger than that guy that's walking around at 15 to 20% body fat.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. You have a higher potential for strength when you have more muscle than the guy that weighs the same as you.
Exactly.
It's not hard. So I mean, those body composition things matter. But yeah, I feel like that was the biggest thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so great segue. How do we build more body mass, muscle mass? What are we doing for our accessory work?
I mean, listen, building more muscle mass is simple in the sense of you want to be at maintenance or above ideally for building muscle, right? And it needs to be things with high preference for hypertrophic value. I mean, so it's not always going to look like squat, bench, deadlift, even as a powerlifter. Mm-hmm. You have to, because it is a skill you're developing, you still have to squat, bench, deadlift. I'm not saying stop squat, benching, and deadlifting. I'm saying the majority of your hypertrophic work needs to be away from the barbell, likely. Mm-hmm. And for a couple of reasons, like you can break that muscle group down more safely, likely with less weight, mm-hmm. less CNS fatigue, with a higher rate of recovery than you can on the barbell. The barbell is physically taxing both on your CNS and on your muscle system. I've squatted before and come away with a sore upper back from bracing so hard. Yep. You can squat and have a sore lower back and your quads not get touched. Yep. I have deadlifted and hurt a pec. Mm-hmm. Like you're talking about things that they have incredible muscle building potential. They do. And when it comes to building total muscle, they are in a way superior. Mm-hmm. But when you're trying to build weaknesses, they're not necessarily the best thing, especially stress-wise, mm-hmm. to build up a weakness. And the idea of your accessory work is absolutely to build your squat, bench, and deadlift, but it's not meant for general power. It's meant for specific power mm-hmm. and getting a weakness up. For me and my bench press right now, and we've alleviated a lot of this, for everybody in their bench press, whether they admit it or not, is typically tricep power. Front delt and triceps, like you're going to want to spend a lot of time on those. I'm doing 2 exercises a week of direct chest work outside of my bench press. Mm-hmm. My chest I have a very large chest. I mean, I just don't need help with it.
Right.
That's what it is. Can everybody have a better chest, a stronger chest? Yes, I don't skip hypertrophic work on my chest, but that's not an area of weakness for me. Mm. My triceps, my front delts are. So a lot of my, that's the point of accessory work. And to be able to train your tricep in a way that doesn't tax the rest of your body, that doesn't tax your CNS, that doesn't affect your ability to press the next time you're pressing. Mm-hmm. You also have to look at later in the program. What do you have later in the week? What do you have later in the month? Like, so much so that I'm not even doing a lot of dumbbell work anymore, and even my clients aren't, because me and you can press 150-pound dumbbells for a lot of reps probably. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's the same CNS fatigue or probably even worse than the barbell is.
Right.
Is it great for building muscle? Yeah, but we have a barbell press that we have to build. Mm-hmm. Right? We're not bodybuilders. If we were bodybuilders, we'd probably have a preference for the dumbbell. Yep. But again, we're having to save CNS fatigue, it has to be recoverable, and it has to be high quality work. So you have to ask yourself, if you're already so fatigued from, a heavy set of 8 on bench press that day and then all your drop sets, you're likely not going to get to touch that heavy dumbbell that's heavy enough to actually elicit a response. But you probably can do a heavy pec deck without, frying yourself without it being
you say heavy, heavy is relative because the motion is much different. You can't move as much weight, so your CNS is not affected.
I have clients that can move the whole stack on pec deck, but why?
Right.
At that point, you should be worried about. You're basically, we talked about Kenny from Mark Bell's podcast. You should be your goal should be to stay in a pump. We do want muscle building effects. We don't want it to be unrecoverable. We don't want your barbell stuff to be unrecoverable.
Right.
There's a reason we undulate squats and deadlifts now like we do. But those things, ideally as a power lifter, building this muscle, it should be geared toward weakness, not necessarily total body composition or balance to a degree, more so than people realize, or what you look like. But this is what's wrong with my press. This is what needs to happen for my press. This is what's wrong for my squat. This is what needs to happen for my squat to get better. This is what needs to happen for my deadlift to get better. We're going to single out these muscle groups, and we're going to spend more time on them than we do things that aren't a direct weakness right now.
And what do you do if you don't have a direct weakness?
General fitness is the way. We talk Westside talks about that a lot. Juggernaut talks about that a lot. One of the best things a beginner powerlifter could do is just a general fitness program. You're still going to want to prioritize squat, bench, and deadlift because you're developing a skill, and you may even do it with a higher frequency than me and Nathan do. But you should just be focused on building total muscle and total athletic ability.
What if you are let's just say intermediate, and you're relatively strong and you don't know what your weakness is? What if you went to a meet, you had a pretty good, let's say you went 9 for 9, all your lifts look great. You don't know what your weakness is.
I would say in powerlifting, we all need more tricep, we all need more lat, and we all need more hamstring.
Yep.
Top 3 things. You want to give me top 5? We all need more glute. We all need more quad.
Yep.
But top 3, tri, lat, hamstring for sure. Absolutely.
Give me some reasons on the lat one. We all know the tricep, right? We all know the front delt, obviously. Yeah. What's the lat for?
The lat and the deadlift, a prime mover is the hamstring, but you can think about it this way as your hamstrings on a squat too. But if in the bench press, I relate this stuff to a car because it makes sense to me. If your horsepower, if your engine is your chest and your triceps and your front delt and your bench press, ideally in a race car, you want to have brakes big enough to stop it.
Yep.
So control a powerful descent, meaningful descent, let's say a more deliberate descent, bar placement on your chest, hitting where you want to. That's going to come from your ability to slow down and stop that weight when you need to. It's also going to immediately impact tightness in the bottom of your lift, which is really, really important. If you don't believe me, set up and do a pin press. And the first thing people have a tendency to do on pin press is they get it to the pins and all of a sudden the weight's off of them and they want to relax.
Yep.
Well, now that 315 pound press that's normally really easy for you is almost impossible to break because you have to try to regain tightness to press it. One of the values of a pin press or a pin squat is learning to remain tight when the load has come off of you. And that's incredibly beneficial. But immediately those 3 muscle groups are basically your brakes in most of these movements. And that's the way it's a boneheaded way to look at it, but like, if you want to move fast and you want to move powerful, you got to be able to stop it too.
Yep.
Like if you can't be deliberate in a press and put it where you want to put it to optimize a powerful ascent, then you're not really fucking doing anything. One of the biggest things, think about watching a newbie bench press and they're bench pressing their bars wobbling all the way to their chest and everything like that. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid by having a big lat and a big bicep in the bench press.
Yep.
So lats are more important than biceps, but biceps are absolutely part of that equation too.
They take a lot of strain off your shoulders.
Now, another big thing about this is I still feel like, even on a day of big squatters, I still feel like deadlifts win championships. John Hack just fucking did it again.
Yep.
Your lats and your hamstrings and your glutes are your prime movers in the deadlift. Like, Stands to reason that a bigger butt, bigger hamstrings, and a bigger back gonna make you a better deadlifter.
Yep.
A couple other benefits of training for back is you're gonna have a bigger forearm, so your grip's gonna be better, which means the gateway to your CNS in the deadlift is how heavy something feels in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a bigger back, you probably have bigger forearms, and all of a sudden that 600-pound deadlift, if it feels light in your hands, your mind says, this is a light deadlift.
Yep.
It is the gateway to your CNS. It's how your body perceives the work it's about to do is your hands.
Yep.
And if you have a stronger hand, and a lot of times that comes from back work, as powerlifters, we don't always have a lot of time to train grip directly unless it's a egregious weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a lot of solid grip work from back work. We do a lot of, my clients do a lot of on their core day, but it also builds their upper back. For their core on lower body days, we do a lot of farmer's carries.
Mm-hmm.
That is some direct grip work, but it's also building your upper back and stuff like that too.
Yep.
But every time you do a pull up, every time you do a lat pull down, every time you do a cable row, a bent over row, and you're doing it with meaningful heavy weight, you're training your grip. So like there's some of these ancillary things that surround training your back that you're getting direct benefit for and from too. So like, but the biggest thing is those muscles are your brakes in all three of these movements.
Yep.
So
even on squat, having a bigger shelf will help.
A bigger back helps the squat.
Yep.
It's also a more stable squat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're helping your core out a lot to have a strong back.
Yep.
You know, so
one of the big things Joe told me with my squat is to push your back through the bar. So like if you don't have strength in your back, you're not going to be able to do that.
Especially with a heavy load on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's when you start seeing form breakdown and stuff like that. And the good morning squat 9 times out of 10 is more because people are pushing inappropriately through their heels, not enough for their forefoot.
Right.
But a weak back can cause a good morning squat. It can cause a hell of a painful squat, especially if you do it wrong enough. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I would say almost unanimously everybody can have. I have never seen a good presser with a small tricep.
Right.
I've never seen a good squatter with small legs.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be relative to the size of the person, so don't get me wrong, but like I have not seen these things yet.
If you just need another reason, you just look more intimidating with a big back.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
hey, I'll be honest too. I mean, like, if you're just walking around, you can just about pick out the strong person in the room if you're looking at backs and forearms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you probably know somebody's bad if they got a big back and big fucking forearms.
Yep.
Like, it's
big hands.
Yeah, big hands. Like, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think if you don't know where to start, those three are the answer.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yep.
It's like generally just like the biggest places where people are neglecting work. Not necessarily back. People don't really neglect back work, I don't think, but maybe new people who are like,
I've seen a lot of like professional level powerlifting program that didn't have a lot of direct hamstring work, and I always found that appalling.
Yeah.
Now you can train an imbalance. I have an imbalance now. I have much stronger hamstrings than I do quads.
Mm-hmm.
Strong quad is still really important.
Yeah.
It's your press away from the floor on your deadlift. It's your whole movement on your squat, just about. So I mean, like, you can train train to a point you're in balance, but by and large, most people aren't going to do that.
And even if you get to that point, then you found your weakness, right?
Yeah, back drives hamstrings. Like that's where I would start if I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So we are doing a lot of Tabata timer with our rest times.
Yep.
You a lot more than me, but I've started implementing some of it here and there just to kind of like on things, especially when I'm running low on time, which is super helpful, especially when you need like a really quick pump for something. I found it to be incredibly helpful with isolation movements.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go pee real quick and we'll talk about my opinion on this. Tabatas, yeah. I mean, I basically started doing them because I'm going to cut and just needed cheap cardio.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, a couple of profound ideas I have about it. I wouldn't say they're all that profound because I'm not that smart, but a couple of ideas I've had since is there's quite a bit of value in it in terms of anaerobic capacity for sure.
Absolutely.
Like it's pretty strenuous to have to do. Probably more so in a press or like some type of lat pull down. Something a little bit more compound leaning than an isolated movement. But you do have a lot of anaerobic capacity that you have to train in those.
That's anabolic.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, for sure. But I think the real value in a Tabata is it's putting people that don't actually know what training to failure feels like in a position where they kind of have to train to failure.
Mm-hmm. Or at least very close to
or
it.
very close to it. So I think it's actually reframed my brain as to how close to failure I can actually get without actually failing.
Right.
Because there's been multiple times in these Tabata, especially I figured out, this would be a good rule of thumb for most people. I have figured out that the sweet spot for Tabata is between 70 and 90 reps. If you're going over, especially if you're breaking into the hundreds, you're likely not doing something that's heavy enough to elicit a lot of hypertrophic value. And I have stayed more sore from 70 to 90 reps in my Tabata with a little heavier weight than I was, 100 plus. That being said, you are building some type of aerobic and anaerobic capacity still when doing that. But just from a bodybuilding / powerlifting perspective, it doesn't feel very useful past about that 90 rep mark.
Right. And just to clarify for people who might not know, what is a Tabata?
Yeah, a Tabata is a 4-minute circuit of 20 seconds of work and 10 seconds of rest. It is very, very little rest. And that's, again, what kind of drive home why me and Nathan are doing these things on isolated movements. I've been a little bit spunkier than him. Like I did, I've done leg press and I do my lunges to a Tabata timer. I have done leg extensions and leg curls to a Tabata timer, and a shoulder press machine, a chest press machine, and a plate-loaded lat pull down is basically the movements I've done to a Tabata timer. And then a handful of bicep and tricep work. Yeah. I feel as though, especially on those bigger movements, leg extensions, leg press, leg curl, lat pull down, and then the pressing movements, I very much want to stay on the lower end of that 70 to 90 because then the weight's enough to make the largest muscle group do the work. I found that if you pick a weight that's too light, like on a lat pull down, only thing I did was wear out my biceps. Yep. Didn't really get a lot of a back pump. It wasn't enough to elicit too much response from my back, but it just wore my forearms and biceps out. Same thing on shoulder press and chest press. It would wear my triceps, my shoulders out, wouldn't touch my chest. Like that, at that point, is probably a pretty good indicator you need to be using a little heavier weight, or maybe a Tabata is just not right for that movement.
Right.
For the most part, I have figured out just adjusting my rep range by adding weight has kept me in the muscle that I want to train. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very tough. It is an idea I borrowed from CrossFit. We're not doing CrossFit, and we're very much doing Tabatas in a different way. These are people that would do very large, complex compound movements to a Tabata timer. We are not doing that. Right. We're not doing squat, bench, and deadlift to a Tabata timer. We're not even doing push-ups to a Tabata timer. Everything we're doing is on a cable or on a machine with a fixed range of motion. Which, arguably could be a good or a bad thing, but, it's still a good full range of motion movement, but there's not a lot of risk for injury in the movements that we're doing. Again, that's more about managing CNS fatigue and recoverability of a lot of reps.
Yeah.
You're doing 70, 80 reps in exercise. All of a sudden, I've had sessions, upper body sessions near 1,000 reps because of the Tabata timer. Right. I would never have done that, before, that many reps. I really like to keep upper body between, depending on what phase I'm in, between 350 to 500 and lower body between 250 and 350. But even on my lower body, like today, I had, or yesterday, I'm sorry, had, 400 or 500 reps in it. But I think the value in it is it can teach you to train closer to your actual point of failure.
Right.
And it gives somebody, I would very, very likely to give it to a lot of people that are new, because it definitely teaches you something about how far you can push it without actually hurting yourself. I mean, because you can take a Tabata timer a very, very close to failure and over and over and over again, in a pretty near miraculous way in a sense, because there's no way, I'm hitting failure, my 4th or 5th set, there's no way I would have continued training to failure 3 more sets in a normal environment. So I'm definitely getting a better idea of what I can handle. And the great thing about it is, we talked about recoverability, even when it's quote unquote heavy, it's still probably a third of the weight that I would have used. We were talking about chest press earlier. On that plate loaded chest press, I would probably press 3 or 4 plates a hand for double-digit reps if I were programmed like an RIR or even like an AMRAP.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Tabata timer, I have 8 sets to do, so I don't have the option to do. I did 1 plate on that.
Yep.
Well, literally a quarter to a third of what I would have done had I just had my 3 sets to failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think I'm getting a better idea. I think a lot of people will about proximity to failure and what it actually feels like.
Right.
Because my muscles are torn down in a way they haven't been in years. I was one of those guys like I don't think I can't make my chest or my quads sore anymore. No amount of work can do that. Well, by God, the Tabata timer's doing it.
Yep.
And it has reframed my mind about how hard I was actually training away from the Tabata timer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been the value in it for me.
Yep.
I mean,
I've noticed that too with a few movements, which I've really only had issues with my quads as far as soreness goes. I can typically get some amount of pump to get soreness. Typically not like DOMs, but like in the moment soreness. Yeah. Quads, not so much, but I definitely noticed a difference on Tabata, especially on biceps. When I do a Tabata bicep movement, it's
there's been 2 times I've had to quit my Tabata because of cramps.
Yeah.
Biceps with plenty of water in me.
Mm-hmm.
We're powerlifters. Maybe we don't train biceps as hard as we should, but I don't anyway. But I can tell you that the biceps been difficult on the Tabata timer. Yeah.
I think that's really been the most challenging, other than the leg curls. Leg curls are vomit inducing. Like leg curls are terrible on a Tabata timer, but I walk away from it thinking, damn, I worked the shit out of my hamstrings.
I think really the biggest value for me and you, and I don't want to speak for you, but really has been learning what actual proximal failure feels like.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty well in tune with that, because like I can tell how it feels personally. I feel like I'm pretty well in tune with that. Probably because I've done a lot of training to failure. Yeah. A lot of AMRAPs back in the day. With Joe, we had a lot of stuff where it was like you have a timed amount of rest, and you go and you do this. And I know there was one chest movement. It was like a chest fly on a yoga ball, and I had 10 seconds rest, and I was like, fuck. Like I had 4 sets of 12 at 10 seconds rest. Yeah, it's just like, damn. And so I kind of feel like I already had that in me, but it does kind of reinforce it. Like it makes you a little more inspired to work harder and to get more done and to survive the end, because it's like it's only 20 seconds. It's only 20 seconds. It hurts like fuck, but it's only 20 seconds. Right. So you kind of you build that mental toughness. You do. Yeah. I think that's been the benefit for me, is just building at like extra mental toughness.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, this is stuff I would never. Yeah, if I wanted to do something similar on a barbell, I would probably do like every minute on the minute.
Yeah.
That'd be a much more. I probably wouldn't do it on squat just because of the time it takes to rack and unrack it.
Yep.
But on deadlift, and we've done a lot of every minute on the minute on deadlift.
Oh, yeah.
Even on bench press,
it's a lot easier to rack a bench press.
Three to 4 reps every minute on the minute. Probably pretty good. I have done a reverse Tabata on deadlift, which is a reverse Tabata is 10 seconds on, 20 seconds off. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at 1 to 2 reps.
Yeah.
2 if it's light, 1 if it's heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Relative to that timer, obviously, you're probably not pulling 90%
right
on a reverse Tabata timer.
Yeah.
But things like that, get you 8 to 10 pretty quick reps. It'd be the same thing as doing like a cluster set, which is something that a lot of powerlifting coaches utilize. I don't personally, especially now that I coach a complete reset between reps on deadlift.
Right.
Like that is a cluster, so there's no reason to say,
right,
do a cluster. But most of the time, especially in prep, my expectation for a set of 3 is the complete grip reset between the sport is a 1 rep max sport. So we want to replicate that. Especially deadlift, it's important to replicate a good setup as many times as you can. So I'm actually still prone to program touch and go deadlifts for hypertrophic purposes. Another thing I've done away from the Tabata timer is this was Dustin Reed gave me this idea. I've gone no touch deficit deadlifts. So basically it is a regular range of motion deadlift other than the first one. And you're just not allowed to touch the floor. So it's a constant time under tension thing. Not something, again, you're going to do with even 50% of your deadlift.
Right.
Like we're talking about bent over row weight. I think Joey, who's a 600-pound deadlifter, is doing these with like 250 pounds right now. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But there's other ways to achieve the same thing on barbell stuff that I would say is probably safer. But But, you know, for all this accessory work, I've done all of mine to a Tabata timer, and it's been a really good feeling.
Yeah.
You know, at the very least, I don't really build any muscle and just build some work capacity. That's a direct benefit to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's going to be a direct benefit to most powerlifters because a lot of powerlifters do not have great work capacity, and that's one thing that Joe really pushes.
We talked a lot about it with Joe, but one of the things, other than an unwillingness to control what you can, is one of the biggest things that keep intermediate powerlifters intermediate is an idea of, well, I'm a powerlifter, I don't have to do that.
Right.
I'm a powerlifter because I don't want to train cardiovascular capacity.
I don't want to do box jumps.
I don't want to do box jumps. I'm a powerlifter. I don't want to do sprints on the bike. I'm a powerlifter. Mm-hmm. Like, well, that's gains that you could make. You could be improving your work capacity, mm-hmm. which means you can lift more weight for more reps, which means you're going to get stronger. You recover faster, which mm-hmm. means more weight for more reps at a higher frequency through the week because you're recovered. Which means more practice, which means you're a better fucking powerlifter.
Which means when you go to these big meets, you recover between your lifts much better.
Yeah.
You go in, you see these guys gassed out.
You and Steve are put in a position. You had a two flight meet in November.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a lot fucking different than having 4 deep and waiting 3 hours between events.
Yep.
Like 3 hours between events, you got time to take a nap, eat, rehydrate, everything else. When you're going flat, and there's 30 minutes between events or 45 minutes between events, all of a sudden that recovery means something.
Yep.
Most of us intermediate powerlifters are going to be in a local meet that is half full, and we're going to be lifting that fast.
Yep.
You want to fucking torch everybody? Make sure you're recovered. Squat to squat, bench press to bench press, deadlift to deadlift, and then between the two,
mm-hmm.
or between the three. So,
might be something to be said about injury prevention too, like not tearing your quad on your second squat because you are more well practiced and you can recover better.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
just a little something to think about.
Those fucking second squats, boy.
Those seconds. I
know it wasn't directed at me, but I know. But if anybody cares to know, I have yet to squat twice successfully in a powerlifting meet. I always get hurt on my second attempt. So
not this time.
Not this time because I'm going to open with 315. What is my next powerlifting meet? I'm doing my attempt selection is going to be 10 rep max, 5 rep max, 3 rep max.
You might need a little warm up in between.
The only guy on the platform hitting reps in between
mm-hmm.
in between attempts. But we're going to do something. The only thing, just get me to deadlift. Get me to my third bench attempt and get me to where I can have all 3 deadlift attempts. That's all I need.
I mean, you could always just go out there with a 3 rep max, hit it for 1, call all of them, call your 2 and 3s.
That's been a thought.
You know.
Fucking.
But also, I feel like you want to break that curse, man.
I mean, I do, and then the fear says I don't. The fear is real. I can't lie to you. That's psychologically, that's a fucked up situation.
What if you literally went up like 10 pounds, like 5 kilos?
That's an option I've thought about. I mean,
just to say you got that second squat.
There were so many things I did wrong, and Ron didn't do anything wrong, but there's so many things I did wrong. Neglecting my mobility, taking things out of pocket. Diet was bad. I was on too many drugs that didn't benefit me well enough to be on them. Recovery was shit. Like, all these things led to it. Underhydrated. Like, there was a lot of things that went into that bad day.
Yeah.
You know? The first one was a freak accident. But
the first one.
The second
really
one was negligence.
So. Well, didn't you take an out of pocket squat with Brandon, and then you heard that pop?
Yeah, I did.
But it didn't bother you until
until it went.
Yeah.
So, but still, bad fucking plans, not listening to what I was supposed to do, stuff like that led to that.
Listen to your coach, people.
Listen to your coach. Some of your coaches learn the best way, which is through experience, and you definitely want to listen to those motherfuckers that have hurt themselves egregiously bad.
Oh man,
that's tasty.
Yeah, I had mine already. You got anything else to add on?
No, I mean, try the Tabata timer out. Try every minute on the minute out. One of the
Just play with
benefits,
your rest time.
Yeah,
really.
play with rest times. One of the biggest benefits to it is I'm done with an upper body day in an hour and a lower body day in about an hour and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Going pretty fast. I mean, I would say that I'm still technically doing off-season work, and I don't know that I'll continue the Tabata on a lot of things when things get serious.
Mm-hmm.
Might keep it on a bicep and a tricep, may keep it on leg extensions, but it's just one more tool.
Yep.
So I don't think, other than making sure you judge it appropriately so you have enough weight to elicit some type of response, but light enough that you can do the 70 to 80 reps that you need. There's going to be a little play in that you're going to have to, it's going to take a couple weeks to figure out what that number is. And then whether or not you can grow that number, you should be able to grow that number by 5 or 10 pounds, throughout your block. It doesn't have to be huge jumps, but if you did 135 last week, you probably need to be trying 140 this week, those kinds of things. Try to keep the reps the same or a little more or even a little less, but keep it kind of, roughly the same rep range, when you move up. But you said or? Or? You said or?
Oh, well, I was thinking or, like maybe you could stagger it kind of like, so you've got your beginning of the week, like the week one, it's like, let's say you did 135, 10 reps each set. Next week you go 140 for 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And the following week you either do 140 for 10 or 145 for 10 and kind of make it like your big week, kind of like, linear progression, kind of, right? Yeah. It's not super linear because you're like taking away reps to go up in weight, but you're adjusting your CNS to that kind of weight, your body to that kind of weight, whatever you want.
We don't get any money for this because we don't get money for anything, but I use SetGraph and to track my workouts. And one of the reasons I like doing that is because it's made me do something I had never done before prior to SetGraph. And that now I'm actively competing with myself on accessory work. So I can look back instantly and say, last week on this movement, I did 100 pounds for this many total reps and this total volume. This week, I need to match that volume and do it with 105. That's such a small, I know that sounds like such a small jump, but that elicits muscle growth, that elicits change. That means you're getting stronger. Like, even if it's just a smidgen up every week. Like, it doesn't have to be just egregiously heavy. The stronger you are, the bigger jump you're probably going to be able to make sooner, depending on the movement, because everybody has weaknesses and strengths. But just tracking and actively keeping up with at least rep maxes. I wouldn't say you don't need a 1 rep max on your accessory work.
Right.
You probably do need a 10 rep max on your. You need to know what your limits are on that accessory work too. I mean, it really is beneficial to know that.
Yeah.
Mainly because you might be surprised, just like I was at Tabata, about how much you can actually handle for a set of 10. But I mean, it's just kept me competitive with myself in a way that I wasn't before. And I feel like, while I haven't competed, I have gotten much, much stronger. I feel like that's a key to my success has been actively tracking and keeping up with accessory work the same way I keep up with 1 rep maxes.
Right.
So just some food for thought on that too. Like, it
makes sense to me.
Growth is growth is growth is growth. Maybe you have to PR 10 accessory movements before you see a PR on the barbell. It doesn't mean it has to be a perfect transition, but chances are though, it's still measurable growth and it's still going to pay eventually. You know what I mean? So something to consider. So
yeah, definitely.
I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
I feel like that.
You got a dad joke for me?
Dad jokes. Oh boy. Let's see what I got. That's another reason why I need to get my phone so I can dad joke. Can't do it without Dad says jokes. I would not have jokes.
We would not. I'm being summoned, so we're about to have to go.
Oh. So, if it takes 6 men 3 hours to dig a hole, how long does it take 3 men to dig half a hole?
I don't know.
You can't get half a hole. It's a hole either way.
Oh, fuck. That just pisses me off.
I have a joke about the flu.
Okay.
But I hope you don't get it.
I recently ran an ultra marathon in northern Sweden. I realized that I had gone way off course as soon as I crossed the finish line.
That's pretty good.
Waka waka.
Oh, I said that one last.
My friend lost his car. I now call him Carlos.
Carlos.
Oh my God.
Man, all of my dad jokes I used last week. I don't have any new ones. Oh no.
I didn't realize this was a British website until some of these jokes. My wife has been putting glue all over my rifle collection. She's denying it, but I'm sticking to my guns.
Mm-hmm. How many narcissists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Hell no.
Takes one. Narcissist holds the light bulb, and the rest of the world revolves around him.
That's too good and too pertinent. Too pertinent. All right, I'm done with dad jokes.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot prepared today. Normally, I save like a ton of them, but I just didn't have a lot saved. So.
Just that's what it is. All right, guys. Y'all know the drill. Follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Follow us on there. Like things. Leave comments. Subscribe to YouTube. Leave comments. Give us your worst. Give us your best.
Message us on Instagram if you're a new listener.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Yep. Thanks again to Zach Rodriguez for tuning into the show, and
share it with your friends.
Share it. Yeah, please, guys, share it. We would like more people like Zach listening to us. It's cool to have the ability to bond people that you wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really kind of cool, interesting thing. That guy's super fucking cool. So it's always good to be able to meet super cool, like-minded people.
Right.
So y'all share it so we can meet more of you, and maybe we can, blow this thing up one day.
Come find us at Nationals.
Come
Say
find
hello.
us at Nationals, son.
That would be the kind of the coolest thing ever, to show up at Nationals and like, hey, you're on the Sip It and Rip. I was like, what
Fuck
the
yeah.
fuck? Yeah.
That would give us the biggest hard on.
I'd be like, now I've got to like do the absolute best. Like some followers out there, listeners are watching me. Gotta kill it.
Gotta win your weight class at Nationals.
Yep.
Let's go, baby. Bye, y'all.